Coverage from Super Bowl 58 here on Radio Row continues, and Sarah and I are pleased to be joined by NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, and I guess I have to thank the last one in, first one out, whatever that is from last night. You and I were the only ones here. It was a ghost town, and so
it turns out when you're trying to track down a makeup wipe at like 7 p.m., it's difficult. I kept going up to other TV reporters going, do you have one? Everyone's like, no. Am I the only one who uses makeup wipes? Is this not a common thing?
I've got a few right here. You are not.
You should have been here.
Yeah, well, I left Bobby here, so Bobby was doing the grunt work. So, well, we appreciate you having on. Now, you had broken some news, and then it turns out it didn't work out. What was the deal with Jerry Rosburg? It sounded like he was going to come in, and then he was out. What went on there?
It remains slightly unclear exactly what happened, but everybody was under the impression Jerry Rosburg was going to be returning to the Ravens staff in some type of a game management role. 24 hours later, that was no longer the case. So Jerry Rosburg not, as of now, a member of the Ravens staff. Again, these are things where, things can be expected, and they also be tracking that way, but until there's a signed contract, look at Cliff Kingsbury ending up with Washington instead of the Raiders. Sometimes there's different things that occur. This was one of those. So we'll see where that all leads.
You get the sense that any rumblings that a different type of hire could happen to serve that similar role, or what are you hearing?
Unclear at this point. I mean, listen, there's so many staff positions around the NFL. There's a lot of moving parts. There's dozens of assistant coaches right now who are trying to figure it out, and their deals haven't been signed because you had, there were so many coordinator hires this year. That's one of the unique things that happened was half the league's offensive coordinators flipped over from last year. When you include 8 new staffs plus an additional 8 changes, that's half the league changed their offensive coordinator. So then all those people come with different staff changes as well. And so there's a lot of assistant coaches who right now are landing. That's going to take place over the next few weeks. And by combine time, which amazingly is like 2 weeks away,
I know.
A lot of this stuff should be settled.
So was there any, mainly because I think Ravens fans were somewhat disappointed. They all love Jerry for sure, but there has been some in-game gaffes that we talked about it. Indianapolis was kind of a big one, and so they kind of like the idea of a game management hire. Do you know what that would entail? Like, is that challenges, analytics, all that kind of stuff?
Every team has somebody in that role, and some teams have a bunch of people in that role.
Whether they have that title or not, like they're doing that.
Right. I mean, there's teams that'll have 4 analytics people that are all on the headsets during games, and so I can't speak directly. I haven't given it a great deal of thought till this interview about exactly what the Ravens' current setup is, but everybody's got various people, whether it's somebody on the sideline, whether it's somebody up in the booth. A lot of times it is a special teams coordinator because they're working all 3 phases, and so a lot of times they're involved with it. Everybody has people who help out with those things.
Okay. So obviously still over a month out from NFL free agency, the new league year beginning and whatnot. What do you think we should be kind of targeting here? Is it the running back position with Derrick Henry? Is it a wide receiver? What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, they went all in on the wide receivers last year. They paid Odell Beckham Jr. a lot of money, didn't get a great deal of production out of it. But, the signing of Odell was also a love letter to Lamar at the time that you're trying to get him to sign a long-term contract. They've got receivers. I went to BC. I got to know Zay Flowers before he was drafted. He's unbelievable. He's a bright, shining star in terms of just like his personality, the energy that he brings. You saw him dancing after that, division playoff win. That's Zay, and he's going to be special for a long time. Rashad, it's been the injuries. I would anticipate that offense continues to run, through the tight ends a lot. One thing they had to overcome this year with Mark Andrews missing all the time that he did. Running back will be an interesting position because obviously, J.K. is going to be a free agent. He'd be coming off another season-ending injury. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back in some capacity. But I don't know that you go in and go, well, he's the number 1 running back just based upon the recent injury history. Dalvin, that was a short-term thing. We saw him a little bit at the end of that Texans game. I was out there at that one, but, you haven't really seen him, get into the flow. He's another guy who's going to be a free agent. I would certainly think the Derrick Henry thing is really interesting because there were a lot of rumblings about would they get him at the trade deadline. Last year, he would seem to fit the style of football that they want to play. But listen, if you had Derrick Henry in that playoff game, I don't know based on how the Chiefs were playing them that it would have been a great idea to just run the football 25 times with Derrick Henry in that game. I don't know if that solves the base issue here. They had a great season. Some things got off in that game. They weren't able to get it back. They got away from, their identity, so to speak. I think that, with any team, and I have to look at their whole list of their own free agents and exactly what they might have going here, but any team's going to be looking to upgrade. The good thing, if you're a Ravens fan, is there's a strong foundation. For the first time in how many years we don't have to talk about the quarterback? It's been like 3 years straight.
Don't worry about that
some
contract.
level of drama. That's done.
Yeah.
And we'll see what else they decide to do.
Can I just interject too? Do you have any idea what Derek might command in free agency number-wise this early on?
Yeah,
Or
no, I mean, numbers really don't kind of get moving until the combine, and even in recent years, they don't. The combine even is a lot of just floating stuff because teams don't want numbers to be shopped that early.
Yeah.
So, no, at this point, it's hard to say. I mean, you look at the running back market, McCaffrey still got 16. We'll see what happens, with him, whether they extend him or whatever they do in the offseason. But he's still the top one. Alvin Kamara is up there, but that's a number that's probably going to need to be reworked. Derrick Henry was the top 5 paid running back at $12.5 million per year. I would think if Derrick Henry wants to keep going, he's going to be anticipating he's getting close to that same money that he was making before. So is that 10 to 12 million? I mean, Dalvin Cook, obviously it didn't work out with the Jets, but his deal last year was, I want to say it was 1 year up to 8-point-something million.
Good one, yeah.
It was a significant investment that they made here. Derrick Henry's not hitting the streets in July like Dalvin was. He's hitting it, at the start of free agency here.
Yeah.
So it's probably a shorter term deal. He's a big guy. He's got a lot of mileage on him, but I'd say, from Derrick Henry's perspective, I don't know why he wouldn't be thinking he's going to be getting similar money to what he got last time.
Yeah, knowing EDC, I don't think he's paying that kind of money.
Steep.
So yeah, that's
steep.
steep for running back in Baltimore for sure. Especially when you have Lamar right there, right? So
on the second year of a massive deal.
Yeah, yeah.
It's only going to get harder
But Derek
cap-wise.
should go get what he can get for sure.
Yes.
But you mentioned OBJ. He's pushing back right now. Some people are like talking about the production he had versus the money, and he's going off right now as we record this. Basically saying, hey, I played 30% of the snaps, so do the math of how that all works. So what do you think OBJ is going to –
you pay the guy $18 million, or I guess it was probably 15, right, was the base.
Right.
And he plays 30% of the snaps. I mean, those are some of the things. I know there's a management aspect with the knee that played into that as well. And when he's out there, he's still somebody you account for. And so you can say he didn't have the production. Well, some of that production is Zay Flowers running wide open over the middle, because you still worry about, is this guy going to, take the top off?
Right.
So, Odell will be another really interesting free agent going into this offseason. His agent, Zeke Sandu, has done some deals that have surprised people before. He did the Christian Kirk deal. He did the Neil Hunter deal. He did Odell's deal. We'll see exactly where that lands. But, it's probably another 1 year type of a prove-it contract for Odell, just because, at this stage in his career, coming off a year like this, he's probably best off betting on himself again.
And Odell isn't in a hurry, right? Like, he waited till close to the draft to sign, so he doesn't have to be first wave.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of that. It's also, he wasn't healthy this time around.
That's true.
He's healthier. So I was coming back from spring break with my kids, so I know exactly when that was last year. It was mid-April before Odell signed. I was in the airport, and I got the text saying, look at Odell's Instagram. I was like, oh, great, cool.
Yeah, that's funny because Field Yates told us yesterday he was with his in-laws on Easter Sunday. So all you guys in the business were doing what you do on a holiday.
Weekend off?
Yeah. What are we glossing over from a Baltimore perspective that you feel like warrants our attention right now?
Well, I mean, the defensive coordinator thing. Mike McDonald's pretty well respected and going to the Seahawks as their head coach here. Zach Orr is a young coach. He's 31 years old, stepping into this role for the first time. I think that's going to be really interesting just to see. It's the magnitude of that role. It's different than being the –
Mike wanted him too, huh?
And Mike
to Seattle.
No, I mean, I think that Zach's a well-regarded guy. And he's had other requests. I want to say the Packers also put in a request for their defensive coordinator job. So, Zach's well-regarded, but it's still a difference when you're changing the play caller. I mean, look at Philadelphia last year. They're running fundamentally the same offense and defense, but you have somebody else calling it, and it wasn't quite the same. That's not to say it won't be the same in Baltimore, too, but that defense was so good this season. I think that's going to be one of the storylines.
Yeah.
Can you educate us real quick, just because we're so into Baltimore? Mike McDonald may be trying to take a couple guys. I'm sure he's already thinking about PQ. What's their cap situation like? Could they spend on some of the Ravens defenders that are out there?
The Seahawks have a particular contract structure that they use pretty often.
Okay.
In terms of the larger signing bonuses, smaller base salaries moving forward. So they maintain a good deal of flexibility. Then somebody else gets paid.
Right.
Usually, follow the money. That'll tell you a lot.
Let's get you out of here on this, and thank you for your time. Jadeveon Clowney obviously had a resurgent year, to say the very least, maybe a career year in terms of statistics for what he's put up throughout. Do you think there's a chance cap-wise that Baltimore can bring him back, or did he kind of price himself out?
No, cap-wise, they certainly, you have as much flexibility as you decide to use.
Sure.
It's not, I don't like the cap is a myth thing, because you look at it every year. There's guys who get cut. You don't want to be rolling massive amounts and then having $90 million in dead money. However, you can, if you really want to maintain a player, find ways to do it. With Jadeveon Clowney, I would just say this, based upon recent history here, whatever he does, we will find out probably sometime between May and August. And it'll be another 1-year contract for like 10, 12, 15 million.
Yeah.
And he'll go somewhere and he'll be a good, solid player like he is every year.
Sure. He reaffirmed this year that
Yes,
you
he
can do
did.
that and it'll work for you. That's exactly. And Kyle Van Noy probably in the same case, although he didn't want to start the season on the couch. He was
He actually
forced to.
failed on our show, The Insiders. He was supposed to be on as a guest.
I heard
And
about
then we got
that.
a text right before saying, Kyle's in Baltimore.
We were
Yes,
like,
and there you have it.
okay.
Yeah.
There you
Well,
have it.
thanks for not bailing on us, Tom.
No,
We
you got it.
appreciate you. That's
Absolutely.
very
Yep.
helpful.
Tom Pelissero, NFL Network. Keep it locked here for more coverage here from Super Bowl 58 coming up.